Um, Hi,
Got it.
Laban. Thank you so much for helping
Hello.
with my project. Could you say a little bit about yourself?
Definitely. Hi, everybody. So I'm Laban Johnson. Geez, I'm known in lots of different circles. I've been in Houston about 15 years, native of the Washington, D.C. area, but been in Houston, yeah, about 15 years now. It's been great. Houston's a great place to live. Lots of NASA folks. I've served with beside a lot of NASA folks in the Texas State Guard. A lot of NASA. You wouldn't believe. A lot of everything. The State Guard is a great network. If you want to come to Texas and you want to connect, the State Guard's a great way to do it. And, like any volunteer organization, right? It attracts great people. Like we met through Toastmasters, which is another great organization of people who care about one another and self improvement. It's a completely different group than you'd meet at a nightclub or something, or in rush hour traffic.
Yeah, yeah, definitely rush hour traffic. I was going to say, your odds of making connections are definitely better whenever the people you're connecting with want to connect.
Right. Not just when they just, I'm just trying to get home and get out of the way.
Get out of the way.
I will say I am a more courteous driver after having moved to Texas. And there's a lot of courteous drivers, and little things like, I know we're not talking about space right now, but we're talking about humanity, right? Little things like, if you're coming out of a shopping center onto like a boulevard, and someone, there's a long line of cars, and someone stops and lets you out. They didn't have to do that, but they do, and it's pretty commonplace here. Not where I grew up. So it's like, you can do that. So now I do it all the time because I mean it's such a small thing to do. You don't really lose any time letting a car in just one at a time. You don't let two.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, once you let that second one in, you're going to be there all
Yeah,
day. It's going
yeah.
to be zoom, zoom, zoom.
The next guy can let the next one in. It's like an unwritten rule or something. Maybe in the state law. I don't know. I don't know traffic law. But uh, but it's just a nice thing to do to make somebody's day. Sure, made my day the first time somebody did that, and I was like, wow, that's so nice, and like I'm loving it here. That and little things like U-turn lanes. We didn't have those there. So if you get off of let's say you're going down Interstate 95 on the way to DC or something, and you decide, oh, I need to turn back and go the other way. You can't just get off and make that little U-turn and get right back on. Now you've got to do the clover leaf, and if it's traffic, it could take you 15 minutes. It could take you a good 15 minutes because you get off, and there might be traffic there, so you're waiting to get up to the light, and then you have to make the left turn, not a right turn, so you can't do a right turn on red. You're making a left turn across a lane of traffic, and then you cross the bridge, then you've got to wait to make another left turn, and then you can get back on. Maybe there's traffic there too. It could be something else. So little things like that I don't take for granted, and it's nice when you have it. It's nice to have infrastructure.
Well, I mean, one thing, I lived in New Hampshire for 1 year. And one thing that was very common in like Boston, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire is uh, what is it? Traffic circles, which I think
Mm,
traffic circles are awesome.
they
You know,
are.
uh,
They are.
you don't
I
have to
know a
come
lot
to a
of people
stop.
don't like them, but they're really cool.
You merge with the traffic, it just keeps flowing. You got to be careful. It's not like
You gotta watch out for pedestrians.
got to watch out for pedestrians, and you don't want to be like what is it, that Lampoon's Vacation in Europe, where he's like in a traffic circle and he can't get out, and he just
It's just going around.
go.
Oh, there's one way to, get behind the wheel and spend some time outdoors, right? Actually, where I lived for a long time in Houston was right on one of those roundabouts. There's not a lot in Houston. There's a few, handful maybe that I know of, but I lived right on one, and it was that yeah, it was pretty cool. But you have to pay attention to who's yielding, and who's supposed to yield, and sometimes they're not paying attention to who's supposed to yield. So it's kind of like, do I go? Do it? There's always that anxious moment. So I can imagine if you suffer from anxiety driving, I could see how that'd be a little scary. It's nice to have like a light or something to tell you go. Or now they have the things that actually use voice and tell you it's okay to cross or whatever. So I mean that's useful for folks that need it. But yeah, I don't know if I would trust that on its own. I think you still need to use your own senses.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But so talking about humanity 200 years from now, do you
Yeah.
think we're going to have traffic?
Oh, absolutely. This is something I think about a lot. I do a lot of driving, and there's probably ways to use AI and computers to alleviate a lot of that decision making and to make things flow a lot smoother. But you'd have to give up some of that. What is the word? You'd have to give up your own personal, I guess, autonomy to. You have to give the autonomy to the car, basically, and people don't want to do that because, I mean, part of the fun of drive, the only fun in driving, really, is being in control of the vehicle, right? So, I mean, it's one thing to get from point A to point B, but there's also the process of driving yourself there, and I think it would be really hard for us to give that up. I mean, we've always had it. I mean, since the time of horses, we were still driving the horse. The horse doesn't just go, right? So I think it would be real. I mean, that's something that would take a lot of time for us, I think, to adapt. But man, it would be probably the most efficient. If cars could be connected magnetically and all drive together, and they'd all be spending less, fuel or electricity to go to, they're all going in a certain direction for a few miles or whatever. I've kind of envisioned something like that, but it's something that you'd probably see in the movies a long time before you'd ever see it in reality, or maybe in China.
Or imagine the cars are constructed in such a way they just all stack up on top of each other as they're all
Wow.
going the
Yeah, I
same
mean it's
direction. And they,
similar. Go vertical. Yeah, yeah. Go outside the box, right? Go vertical instead of going horizontal. Hmm. Like those double decker buses
yeah,
in the
exactly. You're
UK.
like,
You imagine like running to catch your bus, and then you get on, and then you have to run upstairs to get to your seat. It's just different.
it is, it is. But I mean, you already got momentum, so might as well make.
So efficient. You're such an efficient thinker. That's funny. Go with the momentum.
Just tap to pay and. Phew,
Yeah. No, the thing that I think that is the most challenging for us is conflict. Our history and our past and our present is riddled with conflict of every kind on every level. From interpersonal conflict to, I mean, large conflict. I mean, we still have land invasions. We thought that was a thing of the past. Putin
No,
said
and in
no.
Europe,
Yeah,
we were
yeah.
like, South America or Africa or some places in Asia, maybe, but
Some would say in
Europe,
Texas it's happening too, but I
yeah.
digress. That's different. But yeah, the military option, it's not the first option that we typically take, right? But it's still a thing. And imagine in space, we're not different because we've gone from one place to another. We're still the same people. The same genetic makeup, the same chemical makeup, perhaps, probably, and maybe some imbalances, maybe different kinds of imbalances in space that we've not yet discovered. We're gonna have to deal with a lot of the things that we maybe haven't been dealing with so well, and pushing it back and pushing and putting it off. Things like mental health and social issues that we don't want to worry about it. We don't want to think about it because it's hard, right? But maybe it's not. Maybe it's not so hard. Maybe it's I have a saying, and something I always taught my kids is nothing hard. Nothing's really hard when you understand it. It's hard because you don't understand it, right? But once you start asking questions and sizing it up, and start to realize, okay, there's this piece to it, and there's that piece to it. Okay, I see how that works. You can take it apart and put it back together. And that's I was that kid that always took things apart, put it back together. There's always that screw missing, that one you're like, where's that supposed to go? But generally, generally the thing comes back together.
Well, and then you're like, do they know they can save money? I mean, if they just left out that screw, I mean, still works.
It does, it does. Maybe not quite. Who knows what that one screw was there? It was there for a reason, and we just don't know what that reason was.
Yeah,
Speaking of
that's
screws,
probably
right?
true. but we kind of have to push through to find that reason, right? Because otherwise things just exist because you're like, oh, it must be a reason. But
Well,
sometimes you dig and there's no reason. It's just
What
everybody.
I always run into is like the printed circuit board. They might have four or five screws to hold it into whatever the chassis or the case or whatever, maybe a radio or a what do you call it, Walkman. If they still, gosh, that's dating ourselves, isn't it? Walkman,
I
whatever.
know, talking about tapes or floppy drives or,
The
gosh,
where you put the
modems.
cassette in.
I mean,
Yeah, there were screws that were there for a reason. It's just that as long as you're not too you know as long as you're gentle with it, you don't really need it. But it would reduce some vibration or something. But I can imagine when you're dealing with setting things up on a rocket, every little every screw counts, and they're probably counting the weight. I'm sure they're definitely counting the weight, and it's definitely everything has to have a purpose for being there, including Barbie dolls.
hmm.
I'd read or heard recently that they sent some Barbie dolls to space.
Really? Oh, I guess
Yeah.
I saw a little blip about that. I didn't pay attention.
But I only heard about it from an SNL joke, so who knows how much of that is true? That they were the joke was that the Ken dolls could hook up now because the Barbies were out of the picture. This last SNL, this was really funny this weekend. I mean, they that was really funny. It was a good episode. In case you missed it.
I did. I didn't see any. I had to check it out. Yeah, they do have some funny ones. I wonder if there's a way to get all the SNL space related things. That would be kind of
Oh,
cool.
like combine it into like a special episode or something.
Or even just have a page that kind of chronicles, listed them out.
Yeah, interesting. It's like an abstract on what's going on and what's in the news because they're talking about what's current at that moment, right? So it is kind of like that time capsule. You can go from you can watch the history and the evolution based on the comedian's perception. That's interesting, and it's funnier than than watching a historical documentary on I don't know, Discovery Channel or something. Not to put Discovery Channel down. I love Discovery Channel.
Yeah, I mean, but I think it's like tapping into something that is like people's perception, how they process it, something deeper than the knowledge itself. Because
Hmm.
you have to be able to be at a level where people can relate to it. But then you have to find that little twist that makes people laugh.
Right, right. Humor just helps us digest things. I think to accept the reality of the situation, and that's part of it. We have a hard time accepting new things or things that change, and it's upsetting because we don't know what the implications are or how this is going to affect us down the road or whatever. When there's something changes, and making fun of the situation, making light of the situation, just that moment of laughter, it puts us in a different place mentally where we're able to accept it. Yeah, that happened. The Will Smith slap happened. Gosh, we're still making. I know it's too
I
soon to
know.
bring it up,
It's just
but
I
we're still
just
making jokes.
loved Will Smith so much. I gotta tell you. I mean, like the roles he's played, and like his inspirational talks about how he's pushed himself, and it's I know we all have like days like that. It's just
Yeah.
thank
Hmm.
goodness for us. We're not
Yeah,
on national
the
TV when it
cameras aren't
happens.
rolling. Right? Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
I, yeah.
But what I thought was
I don't
amazing.
agree with cancel culture, because I think it could happen to anybody, really. We all, like you said, we all have our good days and our bad, and something happens on a bad day and everybody's watching. How do you undo that on a good day? It's just like when a newspaper publishes an error and then a week later they publish a correction on page 12, right? The error was on the front page, the correction's on page 12. If you were looking for the crosswords, you might have seen it, but otherwise, the error is never the correction's never front page news unless there was a huge lawsuit and some really good lawyers, right? And they made that part of the deal. It's got to be on page one, but nobody ever sees the correction. So what stays in people's minds it was the printed error, and that it's one of those things that it's one of my pet peeves right now is that you know, we went so quickly in the last, let's say, 20 years from there was what, two, three TV channels in your hometown, right? Um, even in the big cities, there weren't many. You had your major networks, and that was about it. Not even a lot of small broadcasters. And you'd have your nightly news, at 6 or whatever, and then again at like 9. I don't think they had 10 o'clock news. That wasn't a thing yet. But then they started doing the 10 o'clock news, and then the night shows, and then that was it. Maybe infomercials or whatever. That was it, right? So whoever had airtime, that was precious time, and it tended to be saved for people who actually knew what they were talking about and had some authority on the subject, right? That could speak, and it made sense to people. But now, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing in and of itself. We have so much freedom of press, and we have so many channels, and everybody can put up a YouTube channel now, and nobody really questions, who's saying what. We watch something, and a lot of times it's our own fault because we're looking for an answer quickly. We hear about something new, like, what is this? Let me Google it, see what 12 people think. If they don't like it, I don't like it, move on to the next thing. That's our way of sorting. And that probably goes way back to caveman days and how we did things and how we do things. But so much has changed, and we're still using caveman tactics on the internet, on the internet, and that's how we're sorting information as to what's important, what's relevant versus what's not good. What could hurt me. Uh, Cash value life insurance versus term life insurance. What do the people on Reddit say? And you make a life decision based on what some guy on Reddit says. And who's that guy? What gives him the qualifications to make those statements? And then why do I accept it as authoritative when they're not even using real names. It's ladies man 247 or something, right? But enough of those, and that's what do they call it? Like confirmation bias, and boom, we've made a decision, and
Yeah, because not only Ladies Man 123 says it, but so does Ladies Man 526. So
right,
clearly, there's two people.
and, yeah, two people think it. Oh, it's got to be real. Then it's got to be real, but a lot of people think things, and it's not all true. How many people don't believe the lunar landing happened? You know, how many people question that? Look, that could be CGI today. If today it could be CGI. Who knows anymore? Have you seen that new Epic Games just released their new engine? Man, you can't tell the difference anymore between reality and make believe. So if it, who knows, right? Like, I think it's okay to question things, um, but find answers from credible sources, or weigh the responses based on who knows what they're talking about and who just has an opinion. You know,
Well, and we've given up trying to find information from credible sources and instead are getting it from incredible sources.
yeah, the oranger, the bigger the hair, yeah, some their character. That's the other thing too. Just because someone is famous for one thing doesn't mean that they're an authority on something else, and they probably should defer to somebody who knows better on whatever that subject is. So we learned a lot about that, I think, during the COVID pandemic, where everybody became an epidemiologist overnight. I mean, I at least took the contact tracing course, but I would never say that I know what I'm talking about. I mean, I know what counts as an exposure, or at least did then. I don't know if that's changed. I think after Easter, maybe things before Easter versus after Easter. Man, some crazy things in the way we do things. It's just crazy. And we're gonna take that, and now we're gonna go to space. We're gonna go to the moon, right? And we're gonna be crazy up there too. It'd probably be crazier because who knows what the controls would be like up there, right? But like the name of your video blog. It's like Countdown to the Moon. And I was thinking, it's also the countdown to all the crazy things that happen on Earth happening on the moon. It's a countdown to the first road rage incident on the moon between
Moon
two
buggy
lunar buggies,
incident.
right?
Yeah, you're like, that's my crater. Get out of the way.
Countdown to the first like wrong way driver. Countdown to the first Karen asking for the manager.
Now the second landing on the moon may not be first page news, but there
Really?
was a moon buggy contest or conflict that would definitely make headlines.
It's got to be fun, right? I mean, what if they do like the milk bucket challenge? Remember the milk crate challenge
Uh-uh.
with but low gravity? It totally changed the game, right? A low
What
grav.
is it?
When it's a thing where you stack up the empty milk crate. Those plastic milk crates that have like each crate holds I think like 4 gallons I think. So they're about yay wide yay high. Well, you stack them up like boxes and then climb on top of it like a baby goat. And I guess the challenge is to see how high you can go, but eventually there's a limit, right? And they wobble or something, and they fall, and then people fall and break their bones. But with low gravity, that would change the whole. I mean, we're gonna have to bring that back. The milk. This was something people were doing during COVID. I guess they were ordering a lot of milk, and had where do you even get the crates? I don't know, but people would stack up crates and climb on them, and that was like a whole thing on social media. But
Wow, can you imagine how tall you could get on the moon?
right? And then when you fall, it would be a slow fall, right?
It'll start out slow.
Hopefully it'd be soft. You get that moon dust, to
Well, the
soften
thing you
the
got to
fall.
realize is that moon dust is very, very sharp because there's
Oh,
not
is
been
it
any
really?
weathering of it. Uh,
Oh.
so it's like a little
Oh, then it's like
jagged
Falfurious then.
fragment.
It's like Falfurious where everything is barbed,
It is.
Down in the desert, it's everything that grows has barbs on it, and you just put your hand down on the ground and you're gonna get stuck with something. It's that inhospitable, and people live down there and they love it. A lot of mesquite. If you like the barbecue, there's lots of mesquite, lots of mesquite for
Well,
miles.
you know, um, since we're talking about the moon and what people know and don't know, I was curious. Did you know that we were actually going back to the moon?
I've heard that, and I guess it's planned, and I think the plan is to like put a station around the moon,
Hmm.
which is like that's a cool idea. I found out about that from one of my kids. He was playing a game on Roblox, and they have like a simulator where you get on a rocket and you shoot up to the ISS, and then from there you transfer on another rocket to the moon, which I guess is probably a lot more efficient to go from instead of just going all the way. So you're gonna have to you're gonna have to have layovers like you're in Newark, New Jersey on the way to Chicago or something.
Well,
That's gonna be fun.
I mean, it's interesting thinking about orbital mechanics. It's easy. It doesn't. It's fairly easy for a thing in orbit to increase or lower its altitude, but it's very expensive to change its orbital plane. And
Huh.
one thing is that in fact it's so expensive to change the orbital plane, it actually would cost you less fuel to land and relaunch than
Really?
depending upon how much you want your change to be. But the plane of the moon and the plane of the ISS are like so far apart that going to the moon from the ISS, I think would be prohibitively expensive.
Okay. So is that not the plan then to transfer?
And no,
Oh,
not from
okay.
the International Space Station for sure.
Gotcha.
But they are planning to put a space station called Gateway around the moon,
Okay.
and vehicles from Earth will go and connect to that, and then there will be a lander there that they would then detach from, land on the moon, come back to it, and then come back to Earth from the
They gotta
vehicle.
have a nice lounge. They gotta have a nice lounge. If they want people to go up there commercially, it's gonna have to be nice. They're gonna have to like, kick it up a notch. Not just like the ISS has just got just stuff everywhere. They need a nice lounge in the moon station.
Well, and a lot more windows. I see a
Windows,
lot
yeah.
of
We could
I
not a
see a
lot of
lot
windows
of
on ISS, right?
yeah, there's a few windows. Like there's this cupola that has like I want to say like six windows arranged around the center window, and it's like just beautiful.
And
But like
that's the one that hangs down the bottom, right?
exactly, yeah.
Like no fear of falling out that way. I'd have a hard time. I would have a hard time sitting there looking down at the earth. But
I hear it's amazing, but
I think what maybe once you're up there, you know, but I don't know. I think I'd have a hard time.
so
Maybe
you
not
know,
like as bad as Shatner's time, when Shatner went up and
I know.
this
I
poor
mean,
guy,
Jeff
he
Bezos is
was
over
so
there shaking
depressed.
up the champagne. He's like, "What? Just be quiet. Oh, I better
He's
pay
like,
attention." It's just like,
this is a solemn moment. Well, I mean, he made a good point. I mean, and he's a great actor. I'm a Trekkie. I love Star Trek. So, uh, and he's a great actor. And I don't know, maybe if some of that was planned in advance, the whole push this concept that and take this opportunity to teach. I mean, a message. And I think any kind of art form that you do, and I'm not saying for sure because we don't know. I'm not in the man's head, but I think there's a possibility that he had this idea that this is a great time when the whole world is watching to share a message that the earth is precious. Who can disagree? It's fragile. The our atmosphere is thin. Once you get out of it, there's nothing really there for us that we don't put there or have to go mine, and we're not there. We're not ready to do all that, right? So take care of what you have, um, because you're gonna need you're gonna need it whether you're on the moon or not. I think you're still gonna need the planet Earth. They really kind of go together. The moon and the Earth. I think one would not be the same without the other. So he made a compelling point, whether or not it was planned or thought of in advance, maybe in the back of his head, or not. It was compelling to me, and I got it. I got the message that you don't have to go very far till there's nothing, and there's nothing for a long way. And what we have is precious, and we need to protect it and take care of it.
yeah, in fact, whenever Apollo 8 went around the moon, they took that Earthrise photo. A lot of people credit that with sort of at the beginning of Earth Day and the environmental movement,
Hmm.
like realizing that Earth is very finite, and there is that very thin layer between the surface and nothing.
Whether you believe it's round or whether you believe it's flat doesn't really matter, right?
Well,
It's
I,
still,
I I would say if you're looking at that picture and you still have questions, it's probably going to be hard to develop a consensus on other things.
that's why taking those $100,000 trips to space would be an eye opener, literally, for some folks. I mean, hey, some of us are. So for some of us, it's harder to learn certain concepts than others, and sometimes some of us are more visual learners.
Well, and I have a theory that some flat earthers are just hoping to egg somebody into actually paying them to go take a trip, and they're not really flat earthers. They're like, yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. I believe, okay, I'll show it to you. Like, oh, okay, it could be, but I think I need to go further. you know.
And again, the first time I saw this flat Earth stuff was on YouTube, and nice graphics and everything. It's incredible, right? Like, you guys really believe the Earth is flat? That was hard to swallow. That there's people that believe the Earth is flat because I have witnessed the curvature of the Earth from the Earth, having traveled across it. But there's some science that went into like discrediting the flat earthers. Like people have to actually work to teach people to unteach something that should have never been taught in the first place. So but that's where we are, and that was only a few years ago that was all research. And I don't know if people are still pushing the flat earth thing or not, or if it's just for fun. Some tongue-in-cheek humor. And if somebody believes it, the joke's on them, right? Maybe, I hope. You can't be that dumb, right? But if there's enough videos, you know how that the algorithm works. If you watch one, there's 50 more, so it's got to be true, right?
Absolutely. It's over the, I mean, the evidence is overwhelming.
And that goes for anything you look up on YouTube. And the algorithm, I think, is part of the problem. I think it means well, but but I
I
think
don't
it
think it
can.
means well at all. What it means to do is to suck you in. It's like
Yeah, to
it's
take your
it,
attention.
yeah, it's an attention black hole, and they just keep pounding the material until it just sucks everything that you thought you wanted to do, and you're stuck in this
See, now
hole.
you said black hole on the internet, so now when you go to YouTube, it's gonna be we found a new black hole. And did we
Yeah,
really find a new black hole?
so information density is just all in this one little speck, and you can't escape it. But
How do you know where there's a black hole?
I guess things just start disappearing. You know.
Maybe something just was in the way.
But if it was safe and affordable, would you take a trip to space?
Oh man. Today? Or
Yeah.
you if it was safe and affordable.
I mean, it's not affordable today, and some people would say they would like to see a few more flights before they consider it safe. But,
I mean, there's always going to be risk inherent. I mean, we take risk when we wake up in the morning, right? I mean, you could be in your house and an airplane engine can land on you. That can happen. You could stay home trying to play it safe, and things can happen, right? So, I mean, risk is part of life, right? Uh, we take risk every day, and I don't think I'm not opposed to it. Like maybe. Maybe we'll have to one day. I don't know. Or maybe that it'll be like people moving to Houston because there was work there. Well, that's not why I moved to Houston, but most of the people that I talk to, they come to Houston because there was a job. We've got so many industries here, but for the most part, people don't come for the natural beauty so much or for Galveston. If it's for beaches, it's not necessarily that's not why they're here. And the charm of the bayou, it's gotten nicer though. They've done a lot of work, but people come for work. So maybe people will have to go to space for work, just like there's guys out in the oil rigs that are out there. It's not because they like the ocean so much or the helicopter ride, but because they're drilling for oil. Well, I don't know if they're doing that right now, but hopefully we'll start that up again. Maybe we'll go for work or if it was strictly recreational, who knows? Is that wasteful? Maybe, maybe not.
well,
Um,
I don't know. I mean, buying hundreds of $1 million yachts and jets could be considered to be wasteful, and we we don't think too
yeah,
badly
but they
about
always
people
find
who
a
do
way
that.
it's justifiable. There's a justifiable business case for every jet.
Oh, I know there is.
You gotta write it off.
There's
But
a justifiable reason for every attendee at any conference as well.
I mean, I can imagine going to space would be great for business. You can say you had a business meeting there.
Well, I often wonder, what if you put the UN in orbit and
Oh,
they're like meeting up there and they have like the Earth below them? I mean, would that help to
carving
like,
up the countries.
yeah,
Like you
well,
get from that
and
parallel to.
and you can only speak if you're over your country at that time. You're like, I have 10 seconds.
It's like when the ISS flies over and have you ever I don't know if you've ever tuned in on the what is it
Like the ham radio.
144 or 146 on the ham radio
Uh,
megahertz.
I haven't done
Uh,
it, but it'd be cool.
Everybody's talking at the same time. It sounds like CB radio, when everybody's keying up at the same time from all over the place. They're all trying to talk to the same people, and some of them can hear them, some of them can't. So they can't. They don't know that they're walking all over everybody. It's a big mess. But thankfully, it's only 10 minutes. But it goes so fast, right? But
Yeah, yeah.
they don't talk about that so much. But maybe there's a reason why ham radio is leaving 2 meter.
Are you a amateur radio
I
operator?
actually, I actually am. I was a radio enthusiast, like scanner listener, for the longest time. I finally got my license when I was in the guard because my main role was communication. So it was part of my training and leveling up in communications was to have the ham radio. That was like a prereq. Have at least your technician ham radio license, and then lots of other things added on. But to be honest, I don't use it very much. I have like a little Chinese Bofeng radio, and I'll key it like during an emergency, like when we have a huge power outage, I definitely had it on from time to time just to check in with the local emergency nets. But I don't do a lot of just jaw jacking, chit chatting like we like we are right now. This is with a purpose, But there's a lot of just people just chit chatting, and it's great, right? But it's just really time consuming, and I was so focused on like emergency management and short, efficient communications because you don't know how much of it gets through, kind of thing. Your disaster zones that hogging up the microphone for that long is such a is rude, and it could be dangerous, right? Somebody might have an emergency communication. So you if you ever listen to a military net, they're really boring because they're so short. There's not really that much communication. There'll be little spurts, but for the most part, people try to stay off the radio because they don't want to say the wrong thing and get in trouble. Like I have.
Yeah, it's hard to get in trouble for something you didn't say.
Yeah, right. That's funny. Yeah. Key up on the wrong channel. Hey, I'm going to Chow now. I've done that on a network that was statewide. Didn't realize it was on the wrong channel. Wasn't my mistake. It was somebody else's mistake. They had crossed the wrong channels. But they were like, "Hey, do you real? Hey, we got a phone call from Austin. They said that you're going to Chow now."
You're like, that's true. What about it?
That happened. Well, now we're taking good care of ourselves down here. But it a little embarrassing, but it was one of those understandable snafus that can happen. That there's a reason where you have these little talk around channels, for simple silly stuff like that, and then you've got your main network for major stuff, and the more command and coordination type of thing. But in ham radio, there's some beautiful things that happen on ham radio that you know, what was it, Veterans Day or Memorial Day, when they do this huge nationwide Memorial Day net, and everybody checks in, and they share their experience in the military and their love for the country. That that's tearjerker, And I was in a rural area when I was listening to this, and just so connected with so many people all at the same time that that was a really beautiful moment. So I don't knock ham radio. I don't want people think that I'm anti-ham. No, definitely not. Do it. Everybody should be a ham radio operator in theory.
Well, I mean, that may be part of the problem.
Just coordinate your nets and everything's cool.
Keep it short.
Yeah. But yeah, they've been 2 meter, which for those who don't know, 2 meter is a band which is it's in the VHF, right between like I think air radio and a public service band, which is being widely abandoned too. That I think we're pretty much giving up 2 meter, which I never saw that come. I never see that coming. But we're using so many other bands, I guess. But I just figured we'd always have a 2 meter band. But everybody's using UHF or digital now. It's all digital ham radio. What?
Well, see, that's the great thing about Mars is, we can open up the spectrum wide again.
Yeah, maybe.
For at the beginning,
I don't know. I mean, what kind of technology will we have by then?
Hmm.
How far off are the Mars plans? Or are we there already?
not there already. So NASA says the 2040s, and Elon says late 2030s. So we'll see.
It's a 10-year gap. That's right around the corner.
Yeah. Well, Laban, I really enjoyed our chat. It was so great to get to talk to you after so long, and I don't know. Really
yeah, this is awesome. I really wish you a lot of success with this. I think it's really cool what you're doing. When you told me you're doing like a time capsule for what people think about space, I was like, wow, that's so like for me it's out of left field, but I know you're like such a space enthusiast, and who knows, what will come from this. That's the beauty of it. I think anytime you do enough of anything, something cool is going to happen, and best of luck, and let me know how it goes.
Will do. And I want to tell you, just talking to you makes it worth enough for me
Oh.
today. So,
Thank you. Thank you. You're too kind. Too kind.
but
In moments before we, before we got on, I was like, I was eating potato chips. Like, have you ever noticed how a potato chip looks like the surface of the moon?
no, no. But there is Bart Simpson. He's in the International Space Station or space, and he's eating potato chips, and they're flying all over the place. So.
Yeah, countdown to that, right?
Yeah,
Awesome. Well, let's see what happens, right?
absolutely. Well, thank you again so much, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Definitely.
And
Thank you for having me.
we should talk earlier than the last gap. I think it's been like 10 or 12 years or something like that.
Gosh, has it really? I mean, this last few years have gone by so quickly, But man, if we wait another 10 years, we'll be talking from the surface of the moon.
I hope so. I hope so. We can do a moon buggy race.
There you go. Hey, I'm down for that. That'd be awesome. We'll have to pour some water and make it mud.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll go mudding on the moon.
Muddy on the moon. That's gonna be tough because on the hot side, it's like
I get steamy.
150 degrees Celsius. On the dark side is like negative 200 degrees Celsius. So it's like,
Wow. So it could be ice or steam or like boiling hot steam.
yeah, I think sublimation would probably be closer. Like it just, phew, yeah. But no, you're right, Steve. Yeah. Anyway, something to think about.
Well, we came up with the idea here first, so if it happens, then we know where it came from, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, well, I'll talk to you later then.
Awesome. You too, man. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye.